Hello and welcome to this talking book called Inclusive Sanitation. This book is a simple guide to building an inclusive VIP latrine for people with disabilities. It was written by Alison Coleman for World Vision Vanuatu and illustrated by Robert Daniel for Island Graph. Inclusive ventilated improved pit latrines, or VIP latrines, are constructed in the same way as standard VIP latrines, in accordance with the Vanuatu National Sanitation Guidelines, but they have the addition of 4 disability-inclusive additional options. So these 4 options are 1. A larger concrete slab, 2. Level access from your house, 3. A wider door opening, and 4. A wooden seat riser with handrails inside. Each of these 4 options can be provided depending on the individual needs of the person with disability for whom you're building the VIP toilet. So how to identify the type of inclusive VIP latrine that you require? First, ask, do you have any person in your household who has difficulties with walking, seeing, hearing, or communicating? Difficulties with thinking, concentrating, or remembering? If yes, ask, does the person identified use a mobility device to access the toilet, such as a wheelchair or tricycle? If yes, the first option may be the most suitable, the wheelchair accessible VIP latrine, including all 4 inclusive options: the wheelchair accessible slab, the wheelchair accessible ramp, the wheelchair accessible doorway, and the inclusive seat riser with handrails. If no, ask, well, does the person use crutches, a walking stick, a guide stick, or need assistance from another person, or have some other difficulty with accessing the toilet? If yes, the most suitable option might be the ambulant use VIP latrine. And in that case, you may just need 3 of the options: the ambulant use slab, the level pathway from the house, and the inclusive seat riser with handrails. If no, there's no person who has any difficulty accessing the toilet, then you can just offer the 3rd option, which is a standard VIP latrine. So let's follow the flowchart to assess the person's need for an inclusive VIP latrine using a person-centered process. So first we ask, do you have any person in your household who has difficulties with walking, seeing, hearing, communicating, thinking, concentrating, or remembering? Yes, I do. Okay. Second question. Does the person identified use a mobility device to access the toilet, such as a wheelchair or tricycle? Yes, they do. Okay. So the result is that I'd like to offer the construction of a wheelchair accessible VIP latrine with 4 disability inclusive options. 1. A large concrete wheelchair accessible slab. 2. A gently sloping wheelchair accessible ramp. 3. A suitably sized wheelchair accessible doorway with a lock. And 4. An inclusive seat riser with handrails inside to sit on. So, all of these 4 options can be provided with the specifications listed here. The wheelchair accessible slab size should have enough space for the wheelchair to turn around inside. So 1,500 millimeters of wheelchair turning space inside. The size of the slab needs to be at least 1,600 millimeters wide and 2,200 millimeters long. The wheelchair accessible ramp leading from the house needs to have a gently sloping gradient of 1 in 12 to 1 in 20, depending on how much space is available. including a 1,200mm flat landing at the doorway, handrails on at least one side of the ramp, a minimum of 900mm wide for the pathway, and have a non-slip surface. The wheelchair accessible doorway needs to be at least 850mm wide with a lock installed at 800mm high from the floor so that a person using a wheelchair is able to independently access it. The door should ideally open outwards to allow for wheelchair turning space inside, and it should include a seat riser with handrails. Handrails can be on one side of the seat only or both sides of the seat depending on user preference, and should be approximately 470mm high for ease of transfer from the wheelchair. If we use the same person-centered process and follow this flowchart and we ask the question, do you have any person in your household who has difficulties with walking, seeing, hearing, communicating, thinking, concentrating, or remembering? Yes, I do. Okay, we'll ask the second question. Does the person identified use a mobility device to access the toilet, such as a wheelchair or tricycle? No? Okay. So does the person identified use crutches, a walking stick, guide stick, need assistance from another person, or have any other difficulty accessing the toilet? Yes. Okay, so now it's recommended that we can offer an ambulant use VIP latrine with 3 disability inclusive options. 1, the ambulant size slab that doesn't need to be quite as big as the wheelchair accessible slab, but still big enough to have adequate room inside the toilet. 2, a level pathway from the house with a guide rope or handrail. And 3, an inclusive seat riser with handrails. So for type 2, the ambulant use VIP latrine, we recommend an ambulant use slab size that needs to be approximately 1.2 meters wide by 1.6 meters long and have a level pathway from the house. This can include a guide rope or a handrail leading to the house if required. It also needs to include a seat riser with handrails, and the handrails can either be on both sides or only one side depending on user preference. So key steps to building the inclusive VIP latrine. First of all, select the best location. Make sure you think about how the toilet can be reached safely and independently from the house. Is there a clear and level pathway? And would it be easy to provide one from the house to the toilet? Is the groundwater level in the proposed area more than 2 meters deep? And is the location at least 30 meters away from any existing water source, like a well or a stream? So following these key steps, you can build an inclusive VIP latrine. So first of all, dig the pit at least 2 to 3 meters deep and provide a pit lining if the soil is unstable. Build the standard VIP latrine slab to cover the pit hole. This is 1 meter by 1.5 meters and includes the pit hole that is 350 millimeters by 260 millimeters wide in the middle, as well as a hole for the vent pipe. Now you need to build the larger slab required to meet the needs of the person with disability. So you're either going to be building type 1, a large wheelchair accessible slab that needs to be at least 1.6 meters wide by 2.2 meters long, or a smaller ambulant use slab, which is 1.5 meters wide by 1.6 meters long. Then we're going to think about including the wheelchair accessible ramp if you're building a wheelchair accessible latrine. So you need to build a level pathway from the house. The ideal wheelchair ramp is a gently sloping gradient of 1 in 20. This means that the ramp must be 20 centimetres long for every 1 centimetre in height, and it needs to have a flat landing at the top and bottom of the ramp. A handrail is required on at least one side with a mid-rail for safety. And the width of the ramp needs to be at least 900 millimetres wide to fit the wheelchair safely. For the second type of VIP latrine, ambulant use, you only need to provide a pathway that is as level as possible and free from obstacles such as tree roots, rocks, and uneven ground. The pathway needs to be at least 900 millimetres wide with a non-slip surface, and it also needs to have a guide rope or handrail on one side from the house to the toilet. It might be a good idea to make the rope a contrasting colour to make it easy for people to see, at a height of 850 millimetres from the ground, and have guide posts for the rope are approximately 1 metre apart if required. Now you can go ahead and complete the construction of the house as per a standard VIP latrine and provide an accessible door. So for wheelchair accessible latrine, the door to open outwards, to have a handle that's easy to reach. If you're sitting in a wheelchair, make sure it has an easy to reach lock on the inside of the door, and the door opening to be at least 850 millimetres wide to allow for easy wheelchair access. Inside the latrine, we need to install a wooden seat riser with handrails. So the wooden seat riser ideally needs to be around 470 millimetres in height to make it easy to transfer from a wheelchair or tricycle, 610 millimetres wide and 500 millimetres deep. And it needs to have handrails either on both sides and across the back, or just one side if required. In order to make the inclusive seat riser, you need to cut out pieces of 18 millimetre form ply or local timber. You need to cut a hole in the middle to form the seat. You need to attach pieces along the inside of the timber and join that together to make the box, and then add the handrails. Then securely attach the seat riser over the hole in the corner of the slab and secure using a bracket or diner bolt. Place the seat riser in the rear corner of the latrine to make sure that there is at least 1.5 metres of free wheelchair turning space in front of the chair to allow the person to transfer safely from a wheelchair onto the seat riser. And then install your hand washing station outside the latrine at an easily accessible location for someone who may be in a wheelchair. So I recommend 850 millimetres from the ground and a solar light inside for adequate lighting. Once the VIP latrine has been constructed, it's very important to go back and check that it's meeting the individual needs of the person with disability identified at the beginning of the process. You can ask the following questions to check this. Is the person with disability able to access the new latrine safely and independently from their home? Is there a clear level path with a handrail or rope leading to the toilet from the house? Does the toilet have a concrete slab floor? Does the toilet have walls and a door with a lock? Can the person with disability reach and use the lock? Is there a place to wash your hands and a light? Is there a strong, sturdy seat with handrails? Remember to ask the person with disability what they think about the new latrine. Do you like it? Are you using it? And has it made a difference for you or your carers? Congratulations on building an inclusive latrine to improve quality of life for a person with disability and their carers in your community. Thank you so much to the Australian Government through the Australian Humanitarian Partnership and World Vision Vanuatu for lifting up the lives of people with disabilities and carers through the provision of inclusive VIP latrines in Vanuatu. For more information about any of the products shown in this book, please contact your local village health worker or disability officer for more information.